Libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about.
Yes, it is Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're watching me. I'm back to my 2 p.m. Eastern time slot, trying to make that work to the best of my ability to have some kind of stability here. I don't even know what day it is, but I know it's a weekday because my daughters aren't yelling at me. So awesome. Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. The brand is strong. I am drinking coffee. If you guys think this is important, and I hope you do, then I need to bug you on this. You've got to like, you got to comment, you got to share. How are we going to get past a media blackout, a blockade, a media blackout is by having our own media. We only have our own media if you help, like, comment, share, let people know this is going on. I am very lucky today. I have a very special person, a man who's running for Senate in Arkansas. I'm so happy to have me. I don't think I've had anyone from Arkansas on my show before. Ricky Harrington, how are you, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I guess I could insult you and say Arkansas, but then I want you to get mad at me and hang up and walk away. So I'll say Arkansas. I'll be good to you.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm originally a Texan, but I decided to make Arkansas home, and I love the state.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes. I'm so glad. What brought you to Arkansas?
School brought me to Arkansas, a full tuition scholarship at Harding University.
Nice.
I said I'd never go to a Christian university, but they offered me a full tuition scholarship, and I ate my words.
Oh, there we go. I like that. Look, hey, people sometimes change. I like that. Good for you. I'm glad it worked out for you. So now not only are you in Arkansas, but you're now trying to make your home a better place by running for Senate. I got to ask the question. It seems like a big task. Not that you're not up to it. I'm just saying it's a big task. So why Senate and why now?
Well, it is a very big task because of the prestige of being in the Senate, and it is the upper house of our Congress. The main thing about the Senate is the special powers that it has when it relates to the executive branch.
Sure.
And the past several decades, we've seen an explosion of growth and power of the executive branch.
Oh, yes.
And as a senator, I want to do my part in upholding my constitutional duty to put a check on the executive branch.
I like that. Okay, so why now? Why not, a couple years ago? Well, why not in a couple years? Why now?
It has to deal specifically with the person who's the incumbent in office, who says that we have an under-incarceration problem, not an over-incarceration problem.
Got it.
And I just would love to just stand on the stage and debate and look him in his face and challenge him on a lot of his ideas.
I like that. I'm glad to hear that that's what you want to move forward. And so I'm going to ask you, I know COVID has shaken a lot of people up, changed how they think about things. So I'm going to ask you, prior to COVID, what were some of your top issues? I mean, national, there's so many issues you could touch, obviously, right? So many. But let me ask you, were there one or two that kind of bubbled to the top?
Actually, my main two issues that I've talked about from the beginning have been criminal justice and healthcare reform. And right now, during this COVID crisis, they are kind of at the forefront. Here in Arkansas,
Absolutely.
the governor tried to put together a list of inmates that were short on time and had nonviolent crimes to be released early through the Emergency Powers Act. And because actually I work in in corrections, and the unit that was my home unit was the one hit the most hard in the whole state by COVID-19. There were at one point over 600 inmates that tested positive for COVID-19.
Wow.
That's pretty close to almost half the unit that is positive with COVID-19. And, there's a big, huge myriad of issues that go on in criminal justice, but specifically with from the police to the courts to corrections, I want to take a look at the whole spectrum of criminal justice.
This is funny that you bring that up, right? When I ran in New York for governor, I had the same idea, and people thought it was crazy at first, but then heard it. Like, I would meet with prisoners' families, and I'd meet with corrections officers, because the point is they have to work together to fix this. You can't just say all corrections officers are evil or all criminals are evil. It does. Oh, I shouldn't say all inmates are evil, right? Not all inmates are criminals, but not all inmates are evil. Neither is true, right? You're gonna find people who are good and bad in both, and they have to work together. I mean, they're stuck in that prison. My father was in corrections too. He was a corrections officer at Rikers Island, here in Queens. So yeah, I get it. You want to make sure that the inmates are treated, fairly. You want to make sure their families are treated with respect. And you want to make sure that corrections officers are treated fairly and treated with respect. And if you don't do both, you're going to have problems. I completely agree, because as you have 600 inmates who have COVID, how many corrections officers are going to get that now too?
Yes. And, being inside the prison, it's just like our healthcare professionals that need PPE. Correctional professionals need adequate PPE as well.
Yep.
Because they're in close proximities with inmates, and you have to think about inmates and their families. You have to think about staff and their families. And I started off in corrections as a chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
And as a chaplain, you have to work with everyone.
Yes.
You have to work with the victims' families. You have to work with staff and their families, and you have to work with inmates and their families. And you are dedicated to providing service to everyone equally.
Right. Sure.
And a lot of people have the luxury of picking a side. And I didn't have that luxury of picking a side, because my operating procedure was provide service to people, provide service and help to those who are hurting. And I think in our country, we're getting a little too caught up on picking sides rather than picking the only side that matters. And that's our shared humanity.
I love everything you're saying. My God, it's amazing. Yes, 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 and yes. Oh, should I say preach? Maybe that's better.
Yeah, maybe that's the preacher in me coming out a little bit.
I love it. I'm not complaining. It's great. Keep on going. I think what you're saying is correct. If we just pick sides, then someone's gonna lose. I want to collaborate so that everybody can at least not lose, but preferably win. Right? I mean, that's really our goal, for us all to win, but at least not lose.
I wanted to say something, because whenever they first made this announcement about trying to get some of the inmates out early, this is obvious. There are a lot of people that are in there that have done terrible things.
100%.
They've robbed their victims of birthdays, Thanksgivings, Christmas, family get-togethers. They've robbed their families of the same thing, and they've robbed themselves of time to be with their families, seeing their children grow up. So it's not a perfect, or it's a terrible, dark part of our humanity.
Yes,
is inside those prisons, and the things that those men have done to other people. They've torn down their own humanity as well in the process of hurting other people.
Absolutely.
And we need to kind of rethink how we rehabilitate inmates. Being in prison in itself is punishment.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of things that people don't know that goes on in there.
No,
A lot
I
of
say the same thing.
level offenders.
I have in my family, my mother was a felon. She passed away. My mother was a felon, victim of drug war, and my father was a corrections officer. So I've seen both sides of this completely.
Yes.
I get it, which is why I talk that it is both sides. Families, and it's unfair, but families suffer when your loved one hurts somebody else, and sometimes they hurt their own families. On the way to prison, it happens that way too. I completely agree. So this is a big deal, and I got to tell you, Percival, I can feel your caring in what you're saying. Your emotion is coming through, and I love it. I wish there were more candidates who would just be more human and would talk about what humanity. My God, what a crazy thing to talk about, humanity. It's amazing. I love what you're saying. We need more people speaking the way you're speaking. All right, so criminal justice, I got you there. How about you said you have another issue? It was criminal justice and also healthcare reform. Do you link those two completely, or are they two separate, or how do you mix and match those, or not?
Okay. I used to work in the healthcare industry.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the bottom of the totem pole there as a CNA crisis prevention technician at a psychiatric hospital. And so I have a little bit of experience there. It's not a whole lot of experience. It's not as prestigious as being a doctor or nurse practitioner or PA, but you're there working with patients.
Right.
And you get to see the inner workings of how our healthcare system is. And it's a broken system.
Yeah.
It's a broken system but I personally believe that the system is not going to be fixed from a top-down type of approach. It's got to start with patients and healthcare providers. I remember seeing the business aspect versus the healthcare aspect fighting amongst one another about taking care of patients.
Yep.
Well, this person can't pay, so we can't accept them. That's the business people talking versus the people taking care of patients saying we need to treat this person.
Absolutely.
And so we need to develop a system where people can get treatment without having to go bankrupt.
You said something again, which the federal government never says, and you've done something very important. You didn't talk right now about healthcare insurance reform. You talked about health care reform, and most people, particularly at the federal level, mix those two together as just one, as if the insurance companies are the system, and they're not. And exactly to your point, the insurance companies, that's what forces that business aspect that makes things so bad, right? It's that insurance piece that makes it so horrible. But if we reform the system itself, which is in many ways, because of insurance, it's become almost a cartel or monopoly system, pushing out the actual the providers, and they become secondary or even tertiary in the entire planet. It pushes them out. Customers even become secondary sometimes, right? The actual patients wind up becoming secondary in this case. You're right. If we can actually grow from the bottom up and change the system, then the insurance will be cheaper, and then we can fix insurance. You're perfect. My God, I'm going to be in your team now. I love it.
I sure appreciate that. I really support the direct primary care form of healthcare delivery.
Right.
It's kind of like just keeping a lawyer on retainer. That type of mindset where you pay your primary care physician directly, whether it's a monthly fee, and the cost on a lot of the lab work is much lower versus you go see the doctor and then you get a bill a couple of weeks later and you see the back and forth that the doctor and the insurance company went through. Why does talking to someone for 5 or 10 minutes cost $300?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. They actually, some people call it the gym model, the gym membership model, right? Where that, you pay X amount of dollars per month and the doctor hopes you never come in. So that means the doctor gets paid by you being healthy. So the doctor's job is to give you the right amount of, preventative care, right? Because that now your goals are actually aligned. Right now, the current system, the doctor only gets paid if you're sick. So if they can give you a procedure or a test or a prescription, doctor gets paid. So the doctor thinks, I hope you're sick so I can pay my bills. But if, as to your model you're talking about, if they're just paying monthly a lower fee and you don't come in and you don't show up, oh my God, I've done well. So my goal is to keep you as healthy as I can. I will do things like I'll do a Zoom call and talk to you about how are you sleeping? How are you eating? What's your stress levels? Are you exercising? What's going on with your body, right? They'll ask these questions to try to keep you in the right frame of mind and keep your immune system high. It's in their best interest. But right now, it's not. They're like, keep your bad everything. Just take the pill that I get paid for. Do that.
And with, COVID-19 has brought a lot of regulations that they've currently waived because of, the difficulty of having to go into the office and visit the doctor. So there's a lot of telemedicine going on. Do I think price transparency is a good idea? I do, honestly, because I think that would create competition between different healthcare systems or companies to provide a better frame of delivering care to the patients.
Absolutely.
Honestly believe it.
I think transparency is one of the first pieces, right? When I talk about this again, when I was running before, I talk about the idea of, how do you fix this? Well, the first thing you can do, this is an executive, I'm sure you'd put this in as a bill, would be to say, look, I don't want special rules on hospitals and medical facilities. All I want is them to be treated like any other retail facility. You have to have transparency. You can't walk into a clothing store and say, boy, I love this suit. And they go, great, take it home. And then you get a bill 3 weeks later for $3,000 for the suit. You can't do that, right? You can't do that. You got to tell a guy, you like this suit? Awesome. It costs $200. It costs $300. That's what it costs. Do you want it? Buy it. You don't? I got you. No worries. You have to do that. But the problem is in healthcare, they don't, right? It's not transparent. You know what you're getting yourself into. So if you change that and just got that as a rule, lawsuits would start flying because insurance companies would hate it. They would hate it and they would start suing. But the most important piece is it lets the average person, the public, know this is a racket. And I think most Americans, most patients don't know what a racket it is until, sadly, they go bankrupt because of it. Then they learn the hard way.
I wanted to talk about something right quick. There's been a lot of talk about Medicare for all, Medicaid for all, whichever one you want to fill in the blank.
Yep.
But as we saw with the Affordable Care Act, it was, the next legislature that comes in can just write that away. So what is the point in trying to get the federal government to try to fix our healthcare system?
Yes.
Whenever something like that can change, let's start with human beings first. Let's start with you and me and the people in our community that want to change our healthcare.
Right.
Start a community action team that wants to negotiate with the hospital and see if they can pay the hospital directly. It's got to be things like that. I understand that a lot of people bring up some of the European countries and the models that they have. They're different countries. They have a totally different socioeconomic, they have a totally different cultural mindset than we have here in America. We don't really trust our government. We don't really trust a lot of the things that they've done. And we are from totally different backgrounds. We have different races. We have different ways of thinking. But in those other cultures, they have a homogenous way of thinking. They have a unified ancestral background, so to speak.
Yeah,
majority of them.
I agree, but there's another piece that people don't actually get, and that is even in those countries like Sweden and Norway and Denmark and those countries they often talk about, all those countries, they also have private insurance.
Yes.
They haven't destroyed private insurance. Even in those countries, there's still private insurance. So it's their government option plus private insurance. They still have the idea of getting rid of insurance companies isn't the way it works. No successful nation has ever done that, right? So even those countries also have private insurance. So even if you want to go that route, That's a bridge further than they go. But there's something else they don't have. And most people don't realize this. After World War II, the United States linked healthcare insurance to employers. That's our cultural issue that screws us up forever. Other countries didn't do that. We did. So now so many people began to get health insurance from the company. That became the norm. The government simply codified that and said, well, that's how it works. That is another issue we deal with that other countries just don't deal with.
We need to understand why we do the things that we do. Why do we have the beliefs that we have? And once we understand why we do these things, we can find a solution and move forward. We can entertain ideas without totally accepting them.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. So now what if I get it right, the way I heard, COVID, the crisis, didn't actually have you change your issues. If anything, it kind of made them even stronger.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it made it even stronger. See, Shelley's saying she has British friends and they still pay their private insurance. Yes, it's not how it works in Europe. We act like Europe all has, only single payer. That's not true. That's a fantasy. That's not accurate. All right, so let me ask you Oh, go ahead. No, go.
I was saying I lived in the United Kingdom, and I spent 2 years living in China as a missionary. And so, later on we can talk about my foreign policy ideas. I remember taking a trip to Italy. All of the missionaries got together, and we had dinner with one another in Prato, Italy. And it was late one night, and I was walking down the street, and this person said, "Hey, you an American? You an American? F you, F you." And this was, Bush was still president at the time I was there. And I turned around, and my friend put his hand on me and said, "Rick, don't do it. Don't do it. Just let it go." But, we have to understand that there are other people in this world.
Yes.
And our actions affect other people in this world.
Absolutely.
And, who would have thought that the actions of a president would cause two random Joes to get into a fist fight over nothing?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, absolutely. That could have happened for no reason, right? Over nothing. Absolutely. That could have happened. Yeah. That's very funny. So yeah, but foreign policy clearly matters. So are you saying that your foreign policy is ending the wars? Is it where let's go down that road. You brought it up. Let's go down that road. If you're going to try to influence the president's foreign policy, how are you going to do that? What are you going to advise them? Are you you think we got to start being nice to China, being mean to China, trading with China? What?
Well, definitely with all our military actions, we need to draw that back significantly, because I don't even understand why in 1970s Congress had to come up with the War Powers Act to draw back forces in Vietnam when the Constitution plainly says that only Congress can declare war.
Yeah.
So we need to end these military police actions that we are constantly doing over and over again. I'm all for leading with diplomacy.
Okay.
Rather than, let's go with the stick first, rather than picking up a phone and talking to somebody. Let's put the stick down. Put the stick down and let's talk about stuff. Human beings.
I love that.
But China, I understand the reason why our predecessors did what they did. I understand. That doesn't make it right.
Sure.
I understand why they did it.
I do think that most of the people who were part of these policies, there are some exceptions, and there were some bad people, obviously. There's always some bad people. But I think most of the people who were doing this, they believed it was the right thing. They thought they were doing what was right for the country. I think they believed that in their hearts. I hope that we can show them that they were wrong and that we should change and that this is the wrong policy. I don't think they're all bad people. I think they were trying to do the right thing. They just got sucked up, I think, in the wrong policies.
Yes.
I mean, I was in the military.
Ken Burns.
I was in the military. I was in the Marine Corps. Pictures right there. Right. Hold on. Can you see it still? Pictures right there. There we go. Yes. I was in the Marine Corps. Absolutely. So, I mean, I was one of those people who literally, if my leaders had said, go into that country and fight, I would have done so, because I would have believed that I was doing the right thing to defend my country. And when I joined, I believed that I was doing the right thing for my country. I wasn't. I can say that now. I wasn't. I wasn't defending my country. I thought I was. I believed I was completely. And if you would have asked me, I would have passed the lie detector test, because I believed it, right? I really believed it. And I get that. And I still believe that the vast majority of people who join the military, and I mean the vast majority, they all believe the same thing. They all want to be supporting our country and defending liberty, and they all believe it. And we've got to show them that if we're going to do that, if we have people who are trying to do that, then let's actually have a policy that actually defends our country.
Yes. My main thing is this: the ability to declare war and to engage in military actions. We need to draw that power back from the executive branch and into Congress's sole constitutional power to do that.
Yes.
And I understand the counter argument is that, what if there's something going on and we can't wait for Congress to get together and to argue about this and about that? Well, then we need to have a select few of the leadership to be in that conversation immediately. And the president can't do anything unless those upper leaders of both houses of Congress give the okay to do that. They need to be in the conversation.
There's something else here that drives me crazy, and it's the idea that, well, what if we're going to have a nuclear bomb go off in Los Angeles and you got the president wait or whatever? Let's be realistic. If that were true, right? If all of a sudden there was some nuclear threat in LA or something, and the president jumped through all of his powers and said, I'm just going to send a SEAL team in to grab the nuclear bomb and get out. I don't care who I shoot. We're going to get rid of the nuke. If he did that, if he's transparent about it, nobody's angry. It's when he covers up and lies. And if he just says, I sent the SEAL team in because there was a nuke there. I know I didn't have congressional approval, but there was a nuke there. And he shows us the nuke. Here it is. The nuke was here. No one's going to get mad at him. They're going to, thank you. No worries. The problem is when you go, I think somebody might attack me at some point. Let me send 250,000 American soldiers, Marines, and sailors over there and stay in a country for 10 years and fight a bloody war and spend trillions of dollars. Yeah, that's a problem. But sending a SEAL team in to get a nuke out, no one's going to get mad at you for that. This is a fantasy that people think that a president wouldn't do. I would hope a president would do that if that were the case.
Yeah, there's what we've done in Afghanistan and in the Middle East is how we create more enemies. Our war on terrorism has completely failed, just like our war on drugs has failed. And we need to wipe the slate clean and start from scratch on how we are going to address.
Let me ask you, you're running for office, it's national office. Do you have a slogan, right? Do you have a, build that wall or Medicaid for all or one of those slogans that you're going to have people start chanting and jumping up and down about? Do you have one?
My slogan is, it's your republic.
It's your republic. Okay.
It's not something that belongs to the elites or to just one people group. I don't want to single out elites, but it's all of ours, and it's going to take all of us working together. Just think about if the framers behaved in the manner that we behave right now with one another in our political discourse. You think we'd have an America?
Probably not.
Everybody is digging their heels in the ground. They don't want to hear people. They've lost respect for one another, and they don't want to consider other people's opinions. If that happened while they were framing our Constitution, we would not have a country.
Wow, I like that.
We need to get back to where we want to listen to one another. We want to work together, and we want to fashion a better future for those that we want to leave. What we're working on today that are behind us.
Right. Hashtag it's your republic. I like that. Okay. So let me go to a harder part, right? That was good on policy. I get that. But look, how in the world can we make impact now when this right now, you and I talking, this is becoming the new norm, right? The old ways of, having rallies and meeting people in diners and the old shaking hands and kissing babies, right? That type of campaigning is either ended, or at least for sure it's slowed down for this cycle. How do we make impact here?
Well, the person that got me into politics here in Arkansas, his name's Frank Gilbert. He's been a mentor of mine. And one thing that has been a part of his campaign is, just like you were talking about earlier, be the new media. Be the new media. And we have to share the points of candidates. We have to, because, I'm not getting any calls or anything. And I think that I'm the first African-American candidate in the history of Arkansas.
Wow.
And I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm a Libertarian, a third-party candidate. And so, if I had been any other party, there'd be, I'd be on the news as frequently as Tom Cotton is.
Sure,
on Fox News. But we have to help one another out. We have to lift one another up, and we have to major in the majors and minor in the minors.
Major in the majors and minor in the minors. Now, help me out with that one.
Okay. I got that from a mentor, an older lady, elderess in one of the churches. She was talking about how she got along with and worked with other denominations and how they did outreach ministry in the inner cities.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't spend no time discussing dogma or doctrinal issues that people usually fight about. They focused on the main thing, and that was helping the people that couldn't help themselves.
Got it.
And so that's the main thing. And the minors is the armchair philosophy. We can put that aside, because what we're trying to do right now is more important. The felt needs is more important than talking about stuff that's not going to have any bearing in 24 hours.
Yep. Let's get that there, all the time.
Get to work.
I get yelled at about that all the time. Yes. I as I crossed the state of New York, I tried to your point, major in the major. I try to express issues that people cared about, talk about how to fix things that people cared about. And then I have some libertarians say, but what about the concept of this thing that no one else understands except libertarians? And I would say, that's great, but can we do that when I'm on like a libertarian debate stage? You and I can chat about that. But when I'm campaigning, can I go to my audience that doesn't care about that? My audience cares about how are they going to be made better in some way, shape, or form in the next, 3 months, 6 months, whatever that time frame might be, depending upon how tough they are, right? It's a tough spot they're in. Absolutely. It is. It's kind of crazy. So I love that concept. I love it. So let me go one step further. Then I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. How do we get around the fear that is all over? And I mean fear on two separate levels. The first fear is COVID is now the new enemy and the invisible enemy, and someone's always trying to kill us and something's always bad, right? That fear. And then on top of that, because I'm afraid, don't I want to fall back to my old ways? Don't I want to go back to, if I lean right, I want to vote Republican. If I lean left, I want to vote Democrat, right? How do we get around that? I'll ask specifically in your race, in your state, is there a way of getting around that? By the way, are you in a 3-way race, 2-way race, 4-way race?
Well, it's Senator Cotton, myself on the ballot. There is an independent candidate. He had to collect 10,000 signatures to get on the ballot, and he's already turned in his signatures. And I think they are having a court case whether or not he's going to get ballot access. And so if the court rules in his favor, we'll have a 3-way race, and that'll be fine with me.
So you have a Republican, a Libertarian, and Independent.
Yeah, so it's kind of a historic race.
That's amazing.
If we don't have the independent candidate on the ballot, it'll be a 2-way race between fear is the mind killer. It's the little death that leads to total obliteration.
Yes. So we're gonna
That's
have
the geek in me right there. Sorry.
no. I love it. I love it. You can preach all you want. I'm not complaining. Preach all you want. So what you're saying here is you might have a two-way race or a three-way race with an independent.
Yes, sir.
So you could make real impact here.
Yes, we the thing about this race is that if we can see in Arkansas, you have to get 3% of the vote during a gubernatorial election. And the argument is that it has to be during a gubernatorial election that the top candidate has to get 3% to have permanent ballot access. And it's something that a lot of libertarians are fighting. And last year they passed a law that was going to increase the threshold to 3% of the total number of voters that participated in the last election. So we were going to have to get over 26,000 signatures in 90 days. And the Libertarian Party of Arkansas went to court over it. And that's how we gained ballot access this year. I spoke against that legislation whenever they were trying to pass it. And so this election right here, if we can get way more than 3%, we can show the folly in the argument that it has to be a gubernatorial election.
Right. No, I love that idea. And look, if it's a two-way race or three-way race, you're definitely going to get more than 3%. I mean, definitely. That's amazing. Awesome. Well, look, I want to give you a quick plug if I can. If you're in Arkansas and you can support Ricky, please head on over to the website down there. It's www.rdh. That's Ricky Dale Harrington. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right. RDH4Senate.com. If you've got cash, throw them some money. If you're in the right spot where you can do that and you're not struggling right now, I know a lot of people are because of COVID, but if you're one of those people who's not struggling and you could do it, particularly if you live in Arkansas in the area, throw him a couple bucks. Give him some money. He needs it for things like Facebook ads, flyers, mailers, all those things, buying ads. He needs that cash for that. On top of that, if you can't do that, great. You know what? Show up because he needs volunteers. He needs volunteers so that he can, get out there and knock on doors, put on door hangers, do some car honking, whatever the case may be, whatever he's going to do all those things, right? And he also needs Facebook warriors, social media warriors, Twitter warriors to share and all that stuff. So if you can get behind him, please get behind him. It's important. I'm sorry, I'm just going to give you a push. You talked about it. I want to make sure we dealt with that. So let me go to the next piece. And that is, I know you're running to win. I get it. I know you want to win. Do you have a way of a secondary win, or do you have a way of measuring a consolation prize? Right. For me, it was easy in New York. If I lose the election, I still gain ballot access. We're good. How about you?
Consolation prize would be this for me. If people take more of an interest in participating in their government, that's the consolation prize for me. If I can inspire people, if you take a look at my website, it's a rinky-dink looking website. It looks mighty homely. And I kind of did that on purpose because, the money that's involved in politics, and a lot of people think, I can't do this. I'm nobody special. I'm nobody special too, but I care about this country.
Yep.
And I want to do what I can to make sure that those in power do not abuse their power and they behave in a manner that's expected of them.
Sure. Makes sense.
And so if more of us can put aside the partisanship, put aside the other things, and just focus on the main thing of keeping our republic.
Because it is our republic. Hashtag it's your republic. Yes. So, but let me see. Is there a way you could measure that? In other words, is you getting 10% of the vote? Would that be kind of a way of measuring that? Would it be you gaining more people for the Arkansas Libertarian Party? Would that be a way of measuring? Would it be you being on a major TV station? Would that be a way of measuring it? Is there what would be a way of measuring that that's actually happening?
Okay. A lot of those things that you said would be a measurement of those things happening. A lot of people stepping away from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party and taking the gamble on the Libertarian Party and being associated with them. A lot more independents trying to run.
Okay.
If on the next election cycle, if there were more independents, or if there were more Green Party, we need more parties. We need more people participating. Because if we just have these two binary ideas going to war with one another for power over and over again, we don't have any other checks against the two parties. So
I like that.
Green Party, Constitution Party, let's all get out and get involved.
Okay. Let me ask you the last question I got from online, and that is, what's your plan to get more press?
What I've been working on is trying to stay relevant, of course, and putting out press releases. And I have put out some, and they just not gotten any traction. So a lot of volunteers.
Can I give you advice on that real fast?
Absolutely.
Because I dealt with the same thing. Whenever, and anyone listening who's running, here's how you do a press release. You literally write the story for them. I'm not joking. You write the story as if you're the writer that goes, you write a story for them. You even give them a picture. The goal is they cross your name off and put their name on it and print it. You literally write that. And not just that, you do it every single week, no matter what. You accept that the first 3 or 4 times you send it, they're going to ignore you. Accept that as true. Don't be upset. Expect it. When they ignore you after the first 3 times, go, yep, that's normal. Larry told me that already. It's going to happen. And just keep sending. Because what winds up happening is eventually, it's going to sound horrible, they have a slow news day. That's going to happen when they're like, we got nothing. Oh, that guy Ricky, he's been sending us stuff for like 3 weeks, hasn't he? All right, put one of those things in. That's how that actually works. It may sound crazy, but it literally works that way. The amount of times that we sent out press releases, we sent out hundreds of them, hundreds of press releases during the year and a half that I ran. The ones that got put up were random. We had no idea why they selected this one. It was a slow news day. And they almost always just changed like 2 words and put it up. They even used our picture. They did everything. So my opinion is, don't stop. Just keep doing it. Eventually it works.
Appreciate that, sir.
Yes. It keep going. It will eventually work. But the thing that most people don't realize, when it comes to local newspapers, because they've been devastated because of online media and the big printing, the big media, many of these local people write for multiple local newspapers. Sometimes the same pen name, sometimes a different pen name. So that if they pick up one of your stories, it may pop up in 3 or 4 local newspapers. And when people say, well, why do I care? Local newspaper, who reads that? The criticism is a valid one. Very few people read a local newspaper. However, if you read a local newspaper, you vote. That I guarantee you. The person who reads a local newspaper, that person votes. So you're at least getting the right audience. But more importantly, if you get 2 or 3 of these, you will also have an online presence too, because they will always have an online option of the local newspaper. A couple of those pop up, then a bigger city finds it, and they begin to follow it. And that's exactly what happened to me in New York State. It took time, but please, Ricky, don't stop. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it.
I will do that.
So let me ask you, is there anything before we wrap up that you want to cover before we wrap this up?
Let's see, I had wrote a couple of things down. You talked about civil asset forfeiture, and that's a big thing for me. And a lot of people don't know it. Yes. That they did a study in 2015 that when it comes to simple burglary and theft, the American people lost $3 billion from the simple burglary and theft. But in civil asset forfeiture, they lost $5 billion. Yes. And that went into the coffers of the federal law enforcement agencies. Yes. And that should make everybody angry, because they're getting this money that they get to keep in their coffers there, and incentivizes keeping this war on drugs. Absolutely. And it turns the federal government into the biggest robber in the country. Yes, literally.
Yes, literally the biggest rapper in the country. Absolutely. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It's important. I get it completely. All right, Ricky, I'm going to let you run. Thank you so much. I know you're busy. Get back out there. Hustle. I know we got to hustle. Thank you so much, everybody. If you want to hear more about Ricky, please head on over to rdh4senate.com. Again, if you can support him, please support him. Ricky, good luck. Let's stay in touch.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate this opportunity.
All righty.
Take care.